I can't imagine they wouldn't be. I mean, if you're Chip Kelly, you've got one shot here to get a guy like that. We all wondered when Kelly got to Philadelphia, what's it going to be like? We're trying to run this offense here. Who's going to be his quarterback? Where are they going to find a quarterback that could do it? He had Michael Vick when he got here. Kelly seemed content to just take the talent on hand and just try to build around, what he had and not go after that franchise quarterback or anything. But Vick started as a starter, got hurt, and then he went to Foles. Foles played better than we ever expected him to play for that stretch last year. Kelly kind of got, enamored of that. But all along, Mariota's been out there running the Oregon offense, the Chip Kelly offense, and he won the Heisman Trophy doing it. He almost won the national championship doing it. I don't know. It just seems to me that this is an awfully perfect situation where the guy that runs your offense grew up in it. The criticism of Mariota that he might be a system quarterback. Well, it's Chip Kelly's system that he is, a product of. So it seems almost too perfect for it to happen, but it's almost too perfect for them to at least not be trying very hard to make it happen.
I would agree with you, Phil, that it seems like he would be a perfect fit for this system. Realistically, where do you think he would have to start falling to for the Eagles to make that push? Do you suggest that they can get all the way up to number 1, or is this one of those scenarios where, wow, he's at number 6, oh, he's at number 9, oh, he's at number 12, we better do something?
Yeah, I think it's more like that. I don't think it's particularly realistic to get to 1 or 2 from 20. I mean, what you'd have to give up to do that would be, it would just be insane. So I'm looking at it more like, we're all kind of assuming some things that we just can't really assume yet. The way the NFL works, it is the scouting combine when you really start to get a sense of where players are going to go, how teams are viewing guys, what their draft position is likely to be. I just don't think that, the assumption that Mariota and Jameis Winston are going to be 1 and 2 or 2 and 1, depending on who you like better. I think that was made during the season before this process really began. The NFL process is it's all about teams looking at players and trying to poke holes in them, trying to find faults in them. That process really began with Mariota in the last couple of weeks. He didn't have his best games of the season in the bowl games where he had the chance. But I think if you're the Eagles and he starts to slide down, and it gets to be the late single digits or into maybe around 10, then you've got to try everything you can to make it happen, I would think. There's a chance that he slides even more than that, and the Eagles could get him at 20. I mean, you just don't know what's going to happen in the NFL process of evaluating these guys, and it's that has just started and will really peak around the combine and afterward when they start bringing players in for workouts and that kind of thing.
Phil Sheridan's with us, ESPN.com's NFL Nation, covering the Eagles. Phil, we talk about Mariota. He seems to be, the overwhelming favorite for Eagles fans if they're able to get their hand. But what about Jameis Winston? What if he falls because of these off-the-field, issues that he has and teams just don't want to deal with that? Would he be a guy that Chip Kelly would be intrigued and interested in doing, moving up and giving picks up to go get him? Or do you think his character flaws might scare the Eagles away?
I would tend to think so. It's hard to say for sure. I would have been shocked and stunned and amazed, in 2009, early 2010, if you told me they were going to sign Michael Vick. That did not seem like an Eagles kind of a move to go and acquire a guy with Vick's history. So, the knocks on Winston off the field, they're serious matters. The allegations of rape and some other things that he's been accused of, they're definitely the kind of thing you'd have to spend some time with the guy, talk to him, get a sense of what was going on with him and what he's really like. We don't know for sure about Chip Kelly on that stuff. He had some players at Oregon had some issues, but he talks a lot about culture, the culture of the team, the winning culture, building a winning culture. You don't do that with guys who have Jameis Winston's baggage, I don't think. But if you don't feel like Winston is getting a fair shake in some sense, then, your view of it might be entirely different. But it's really a matter of time, for Kelly, Jeff Lurie, everybody involved to sit down with this person, meet him, get a firsthand feel for what kind of a young man he is. That hasn't really happened yet. So I would guess that, what I know right now, that it'd be a real long shot, but you just don't know what's going to happen when they sit down and look at each other man to man, eye to eye, Chip Kelly and Jameis Winston. That could change things.
Because a lot of people, Phil, think that Winston is clearly the better player, that he's just flat out a bit more talented guy and just a better overall player than Marcus Mariota is. And, if it's not for the off-the-field concerns, that he would be the number one pick in this draft. And I know those concerns are there, but if you're just looking at the two players, Mariota or Winston, you wonder if Winston's actually a better option than Mariota would be. Yeah,
it's a fair question. I mean, if you're just looking at the football stuff and just taking everything else out of it, yeah, I mean, it's pretty clear that Winston played in an offense at Florida State where he was asked to do more of the things that NFL quarterbacks typically asked to do. The reports I've read, the people who looked at it, their knock on Mariota or the questions about Mariota are that he doesn't have to make certain throws that are, pretty much typical in any NFL offense. But the thing is that Chip Kelly's running Chip Kelly's offense, and Mariota is comfortable running Chip Kelly's offense. Mariota doesn't make those throws at Oregon because he's not asked to. It's not what they do. Winston has to make the throws, in his college program, so he makes them. So, I mean, one of the things about the combine is you start to see guys, going through drills with NFL people, standing around, asking them to do things. They have to make throws that they might not have had to make at the college level, but now they're going to be making them in front of a bunch of NFL scouts and personnel people, with receivers they don't even know from other schools. I mean, it's a kind of a grueling thing for quarterbacks to go through, and how Mariota and Winston go through that process will have a huge impact on how they're drafted, where they come out in the NFL draft.
Well, Phil, obviously Chip Kelly is now the guy making those decisions, but he's trying to find a right-hand man. Where are the Eagles with that search, and are there any of these candidates that stick out to you?
I don't know as much about them, at this point. It's really hard to say. Anybody that's below, the top decision maker in any organization, you really can never be sure, because the way it works in the NFL, in my experience, the person making the decisions, has a title and a responsibility, and everybody knows that person is making the decision. So when a bad decision is made, all of a sudden it becomes the fault of some underling. It becomes a mistake by somebody else. Guys who are not the decision maker, if it's a good draft pick, I really liked him. I'm the guy that, talked him up or whatever. It goes on with the Eagles. It has gone on for years. It's a major flaw in the NFL, I think, the way that stuff gets spun. So I don't really know what specifically each of these guys brings to the table. There are certainly some well-thought-out people. They seem to be talking to the right people. If you look at the people that the Eagles are trying to talk to, they seem like the kind of candidates that are out there for other jobs and in other situations. So, the key is to get somebody who is able to come in and communicate well with Chip Kelly. I mean, he's got to be able to understand what Kelly wants and how to find it when looking at film and grading players. But he also has to be able to talk to Kelly in a way that, gives Kelly the parts of the NFL game that he doesn't really master yet. I mean, it's, Howie Roseman was supposed to be that guy, and when we're hearing good things about the situation, that's what we heard, that Rosen was talking Kelly through things, like Taylor Hart will be available in the fifth round, don't take him in the third round, that kind of thing. The ability to do that and get along with the coach and, have him respect your opinion and challenge his opinions, that's really important. And that's stuff you don't know until Kelly and these candidates meet. It's just like he's talking to good people and the right kind of people. But it's going to be a hugely important hire for Chip Kelly, because if he's going to make, we saw that with Andy Reid. When he got Tom Heckert in here for a little while there, they made some good decisions together. But when the personnel department started to slide a little bit, and Andy had to make decisions based on faulty information or bad judgments, that's when things really started to go bad under Andy, and the draft started going bad every year. And it's a disaster if you let that happen.
Phil Sheridan, ESPN.com, NFL Nation here at Sheridan Scribe on Twitter. Phil, you wrote a nice piece over at ESPN.com yesterday, and we were just talking about this today, about Chip Kelly. The coaching carousel's going around, and I don't know that there's a candidate out there today or in this year's carousel that excites me that I would say, man, this would really be a time that you would want to do something. Now, 2 years ago when the Eagles got Chip Kelly, there were some other intriguing guys, but 2 years into Chip Kelly now, is he still evolving? Has he exceeded your expectations? Has he disappointed? I mean, when you try to define what Chip Kelly is after 2 years, what is Chip Kelly in the NFL? More than you expected, about what you expected, or not as much as you expected?
Yeah, I think he's probably about what I expected in a lot of ways. I mean, last year he probably exceeded our expectations, and I think, going to the playoffs, winning the division the first year, it was a pretty good achievement. But the fact is, they did take a step back this year. The same record, but, quarterback was hurt. There were some issues there, but that 3-game losing streak in December, it's really hard to look at that and not assign some of the blame for that to the coach. It's just the way it is. That was a team with a chance, to make a run and finish with the best record in the NFC. And then with the 3-game losing streak, they were suddenly basically out of it. So a little bit of a downturn in the second year. What concerns me most about Kelly and what he's done so far is kind of what we started talking about. When Andy Reid got here in 1999, he basically said, hey, the first year I'm going to get my quarterback, I'm going to identify him, acquire him, and train him in my system, and we're not going to worry about the first year. That's Doug Peterson's going to start for a while. I mean, just forget the first year. By the second year, they were going to the playoffs. By the third year, they were going to the NFC Championship game. It's now Kelly going into his third year. By this point, Andy Reid was getting ready to go Donovan McNabb in his third season, go to that first of 4 NFC Championship games. I don't think that you're looking at the Eagles right now and saying, yeah, well, this team is clearly poised to take a step forward and, be in the NFC Championship game next year. I mean, they could. It's possible. It's not out of the question. But I don't see the sort of, team building that you saw with Andy Reid, at least back in the day. Kelly came in like, I want to take what's here and win as many games as I can right away. That was his approach, and he did. He did really well with it, except they seemed to kind of, got stalled. This year you saw them, they basically lost, to most of the good teams they played. When they played a really good team, they tended to lose. They seem like they found their level there. They're a good team, but they're not an elite team. Are they going to get to be elite? Well, the quarterback's important there. Some other moves are important. The defense, would be helpful. So there's a lot to do. And now he handles this offseason. It's going to go a long way toward really determining whether he is ready to take this team to the next level or whether they're just kind of stuck where they are. And that would be disappointing.
Yeah, and if you go back to the coaches that have been hired, you look at Bill O'Brien, that was a team that won, 3 games or 2 games? They went from 2 games to 9. Doug Marrone got his team to 9-7. So other guys the improvement is happening for these other franchises. And I think a lot of that just, Andy's last team went 4-12. But Phil, do you really think that was a 4-12 talent team in terms of the injuries on the offensive line? McCoy ended up getting hurt there. You had to start a rookie third-round quarterback. I mean, are we giving Kelly too much credit from going from 4-12 to 10-6?
Yeah, that's actually a fair point. I've thought that myself a lot the last couple of years, is that, that 4-12 Reed team, and the defense was a mess. I mean, the whole Juan Castillo thing, and he's, abandoned that and had threw Todd Bowles, who's now a head coach, by the way, in his defensive coordinator role in a terrible situation. With the Nnamdi Asomugha, Dominic Rodgers-Cromartie were your corners. It was a really toxic situation in 2012 for the Eagles. But the offensive talent, when healthy, is the same offensive talent that Kelly basically took to a 10-6 record in the NFC East title last year. The line was, except for Lane Johnson, his first-round pick, was the line that Andy Reid put together. And McCoy, Deshaun Jackson, Nick Foles, all the guys that were there last year, they were all Andy Reid acquisitions. So, the fact is, there was talent there. There were probably more talented than a typical 4-12 team, but he still did it. I mean, it was a very bad situation. It was when Kelly talks about a winning culture, somehow Andy Reid's winning culture had really gone south by that point, and it was a toxic culture when Chip Kelly got here. So there was a job to be done in correcting that and getting the team turned around. And I think he did a good job with that. But yeah, it's not like there was no talent here and he just, invented all this. And the defense, needed a lot of work. It still needs a lot of work. It's been a little bit better at times, but, that is a major problem to fix. And I'm not sure the Eagles have made as much headway in fixing it as they needed to have in the first 2 years.
Well, the interesting take here is, and we looked at some numbers on this, the Eagles offense, they averaged 29 points a game, but they scored 11 touchdowns on special teams and defense. So if you take those 77 points out, they actually scored 24 points a game, which is right about the middle of the pack. So one could actually question, don't they need some more help on the offensive side of the ball too, which would mean in the draft, is it, if they stay at 20, do they need an offensive weapon or do they need a defensive weapon?
Well, it depends on who's there. I mean, if I was making the ideal pick for the Eagles, then yeah, sure, Marcus Mariota falls within the 20. That's probably not going to happen. It's possible, but probably not going to happen. It just depends who's there. If it's an elite cornerback or another wide receiver, I mean, there's a lot of ways you could go that you could add pieces. I mean, they have the infrastructure of a pretty good team. To get to that next level, they're going to have to find some key acquisitions, and they're going to have to be, in the defensive secondary needs a total makeover. So if you use a first-round pick on a cornerback or a safety that can really make a difference and be there for the next few years, that's something you have to do if you can do it. If you can get a quarterback who would make your whole offense better, then certainly that would be something you would do if you can. But if Riley Cooper is your other starting wide receiver next year, I don't think you're really doing your job. You've got to get the offense balanced and a little more dangerous than it was in this past year, because it was not. There were games where the offense looked great, but they tended to be against lesser teams. When they tend to good defense, they struggled a little bit to score, and that's where those special teams and defensive points came up big for them. But you can't really count on them, and they kind of disappeared even as the season went on this year.
Yeah, Phil, obviously you mentioned if Riley Cooper's back, they can't even really cut him because I think that would be more of a cap hit than they actually if they kept him. So it looks like he'll be back. But Macklin's in an interesting spot. I know most people think he wants to come back and will be back, but is it easier said than done with the free agent class of receivers out there? I mean, are the Eagles in a spot where they might have to franchise him? And if they do, how will that affect free agency for them?
Yeah, it's a possibility. I think the threat of putting the franchise tag on Macklin is and his stated desire to be back. I mean, those are two big things, and I think there are factors where if the Eagles come at this and they offer him the deal that he would accept as a reasonable trade-off for getting the free agency, then he'll be back. I mean, he wants to come back. They want him back, and they put themselves in a position where they really need him back.
Right.
That's Kelly's doing. And Kelly's the one who cut Deshaun Jackson and made Jeremy Macklin that much more valuable. So that's on them. So you're going to pay a little bit of a price for that, probably by overpaying Macklin. But that's what you do. When guys are headed for free agency, you have to overpay them sometimes. And there's no reason for Macklin to take a hometown discount here. I mean, he played this past year on a one-year deal, coming off an ACL tear. Played better than I expected him to play. A lot of people, were surprised by how well he played. He was hugely important to their offense. So, I just think the threat of the franchise tag is enough. You don't want to have to do it if you're the Eagles, but if Macklin knows you can do it, and it's going to limit his ability to get to the free agent market and get the max deal that he could possibly get, there's enough factors there that tell me that if people are smart and cool heads prevail in this, it should get done relatively painlessly.
You would think so, and Jeremy Maclin, it sounds like, wants to be back here, but there's a lot of money that these receivers are going to be getting paid this year. You got Des Bryant, you got Demaryius Thomas, you've got Randall Cobb. You got three really good ones ahead of you on the board there, so I'm sure he's going to be waiting around to see what everybody else gets, and are the Eagles going to want to pay $10, $11, $12 million for Jeremy Maclin? Because he might be worth that money himself, but you got to find someone else, as you mentioned, Phil, on the other side to really, I think, maximize his value, and make him worth in that type of range. I mean, is he the receiver in your mind? Yeah, he exceeded, I think, a lot of expectations, and the numbers were there. I think the numbers are going to be there in this offense, but is he a guy that you look at as that prototypical number one guy like some of these other teams have?
No, I don't think so. I mean, he's very good. He played very well. I did not think of him as a number one receiver at all, really, before this past season. The numbers he put up and the impact that he had, surprising, because I didn't see him as that kind of guy. But, in a perfect world, you find a number one receiver and you still have Maclin as your other guy. If Macklin's your second guy, you're really good at wide receiver. Now, I don't know if Jordan Matthews can evolve into that kind of player. He showed flashes of that last year, but asking him to be that guy, and take that step from where he was to where he'd have to be, that's a lot to ask of a young player. But it seems like, their alternative would be to go ahead and say, all right, we're letting Maclin walk, find his pot of gold in free agency and let him slide, and just completely redo the wide receiver position and find new people all around. And as long as you get the right people, you can do that. The trouble is they have to do that in the defensive secondary. There's only so much of that you can do in an off season. In Maclin, you have a guy that's here, knows what you do, does it well.
Yep.
He's been nothing but a model teammate. He's just been the perfect employee for them. There's really, no rational reason to let Jeremy Maclin go if you're the Eagles.
Phil Sheridan, everybody, at Sheridan Scribe for more on the Eagles offseason. ESPN.com's NFL Nation has plenty more on the Philadelphia Eagles, and the free agency period begins on March the 10th, and the NFL Draft, of course, in April right after that. And hopefully Phil will be able to catch up some more throughout the process, as this is a very big and interesting offseason with Chip Kelly in command. We'll catch up with you soon, pal.
All right, look forward to it.